what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, theFellowKGB. You can follow me on Twitter at theFellowKGB. And today I'm going to be kind of going over a best ball draft that I did this afternoon. My last video took an hour and a half, so I figured I would just do the draft and then I'll come back to it and talk about it in maybe like in a half an hour format of just reviewing the draft. So I'm using drafters.com, and they have the best ball championship going on right now, where it's a big field of, they just keep doing 12-team drafts. There's going to be 10,008 total teams at a $5.50 buy-in. And the total prizes are worth $50,000 and $10K to first. So that's what we're trying to go for. And I really liked my draft today. It went really well. We started in the 6th spot. So I'm going to switch over to the draft board and we'll kind of just walk it through, and I'll kind of just tell you guys what I was thinking when I was doing this. And I don't know, I was really happy with how the board fell. So like I said, we were in the 6th spot to start. Very typical draft, starting with McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke Elliott, Michael Thomas, first receiver off the board, and then Alvin Kamara. So at the 6th spot, I was debating basically Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. I went with Derrick Henry just because I haven't had many shares of Derrick Henry. And I think Henry's going to be feeling good. He just got paid. Tennessee, that offense is built around him. They have a good defense. I'm not exactly scared of the AFC South defenses. I like what Tannehill was able to do with this offense last year. So I just went with Derrick Henry. He's going to have some big boom games, and we'll figure out the rest. But after that, we go Tyreek Hill, Kenyon Drake, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams at 10, it's a pretty good deal. And then Joe Mixon and Miles Sanders finish out the first round. And then we're going to come around back with round 2 with Josh Jacobs, Julio Jones, Aaron Jones. The tight ends back-to-back, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. That's pretty early. That's probably the earliest I've seen George Kittle go, which is interesting. And then you got DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm back up here, and Nick Chubb falls to me at the 19th overall spot, which that was probably my favorite pick that I've been able to do in the second round so far. I've seen Nick Chubb go as high as 9, 10, 11, 12 in that range. So for me to get him and pair him with Derrick Henry, that's pretty beastly. Hopefully one of those guys is going off every other week, if not hitting on the same weekend. So that's a really good running back start. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, they have different bye weeks, so that's a +2. I had eyes for Nick Chubb there, but Chris Godwin would have been nice. I didn't really think about Eckler or Lamar Jackson, so I really wanted Nick Chubb to fall to me, and that was kind of best case scenario, so it worked out. After me, it was Austin Eckler, Chris Godwin, Lamar Jackson, Kenny Golladay, and Amari Cooper finishing up the second round. And then we move on to DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley, Patrick Mahomes. And then I got to a point, pick overall 30. I'm sitting here. I didn't really know what to do. So I just went to my projection page on my Google Sheets document, and I just looked at the best available players. So I have all my guys that I drafted in green. And this is all the flex players. I don't group quarterbacks in with these. I kind of just make a judgment call on quarterbacks when I want to pull. But Juju Smith-Schuster, man, he's sitting at the 15th best overall flex, position. And this is it's a bet that Ben Roethlisberger is going to play at least 14, 15, 16 games. And if he does, I think Juju's going to be in for a really big year. Big Ben, just think about Antonio Brown and Juju the way, when those two were together. He just force-fed his number one receiver target. So I think Juju Smith-Schuster has a really good shot at getting over 150 targets this year. So I went and selected Juju as my wide receiver 1. And then after me was Zach Ertz, Odell Beckham. Allen Robinson could have been another guy that I thought of. But I'll take Roethlisberger over Nick Foles for that, situation. And then Melvin Gordon, Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen would have been a nice player to grab as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire falling to the end of the third round. That's kind of later than I've normally seen. He's usually a end of the second round, early third round guy. So that's interesting. Start of the fourth round, you got A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, David Johnson. We got our running backs, a little run here. David Johnson, James Conner, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell. So I probably would have had to think about drafting one of those running backs if they fell to me. But I was lucky enough to get one of my favorite low-end wide receiver 1s this year, Robert Woods. And again, I was sticking to my board, and nobody was available that I had above. So Robert Woods sitting as my 24th best overall player. I went with Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks is out of town. That team the offensive line's not going to be good. I don't really trust the defense. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton this year again. And Robert Woods, I think he was like wide receiver 14 last year. So that to me, that's kind of his floor. So I get Robert Woods locked in as my wide receiver 2, and I think he's got wide receiver 1 upside. So I'm feeling pretty good about this balanced start of Henry, Chubb, Juju, and Robert Woods. And then we get Jonathan Taylor, Kyler Murray, Cooper Kupp, Mark Andrews, and Dak Prescott to finish up the 4th round. Turn around here, we got DJ Chark, Tyler Lockett would have been nice, Mark Ingram, and then DK Metcalf would have been nice too in a best ball league. Keenan Allen, and then I'm up to pick, and I'm at this point it's almost like an auto pick Terry McLaurin for me in a best ball draft. I'm super excited about what he can do. I think I mentioned on a podcast, the news came out that Kelvin Harmon, their projected number 2 receiver, was out with a torn ACL. So Terry McLaurin, he's the clear-cut number 1 option in the Redskins passing offense, and they're going to be passing a lot, I think. So he checks all the boxes, especially in a best ball league. He might be a little inconsistent, week to week, but cornerback struggled to guard him last year. Now you're getting year 2 of Dwayne Haskins. A new offensive play caller might be kind of interesting and help this offense free it up. So I love McLaurin there. I get him as my wide receiver 3. I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 this year. So I'm super happy with the receivers I got right now. Devontae Parker, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Green, Cortland Sutton, David Montgomery, and then Kareem Hunt falls to the end of the 5th round. That's a pretty nice value. This guy's got some good running backs here, this toasty beer dude. 4 running backs in his first 5 picks. He's got A.J. Brown. Then he comes back with Marquise Brown. So this guy's got some really nice best ball players. Raheem Mostert, Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, Josh Allen, Darren Waller. And then I was up to pick, and I went with Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's been a guy that I've been trying to get more shares of within the last week or so. I think people are kind of undervaluing him right now. I can't remember where he finished last year, but he was like maybe wide receiver 16 or 17. And he actually, if you look at some of his splits with A.J. Green in the lineup, he basically is the same kind of receiver. So A.J. Green in the lineup is going to help, defenses focus on Green, and Tyler Boyd kind of gets to run free in the slot. And then when you think about Joe Burrow and how he was able to move the ball at LSU, he just hammered Justin Jefferson in the slot. So that's where Tyler Boyd's going to live this year. So I'm really into Tyler Boyd, especially in the 6th round. So I got 4 really good receivers. I think I got 2 wide receiver 1s in Smith, Schuster, and Robert Woods. And then I think I got 2 really solid wide receiver 2s with McLaurin and Tyler Boyd. So McLaurin's kind of the boom bust guy. He's going to be the guy that probably pops in and out of our lineup, where I feel pretty good about Juju, Woods, and Boyd being pretty consistent on a weekly basis. And you start 3 receivers. So every week, one of these guys is starting for us. And then I guess you get 1 flex. So all 4 of these guys could be starting for us. So that's interesting. After that, we got T.Y. Hilton, Michael Gallup, one of my favorite receivers. I probably would have, if Boyd would have been gone, I probably would have went with Gallup. DeAndre Swift, Russell Wilson, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the 6th round. I actually did think about Russell Wilson here because he was quarterback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was quarterback 7 off the board. He's going to be better than a quarterback 7. He's got top 3 or 4 upside this year. So at that point, that's probably the 6th round is where I am interested in taking a quarterback, but I decided to wait on this one. So after Russ, you got Devin Singletary, Jarvis Landry on the turn, Cam Akers, Julian Edelman, Damian Williams, Evan Ingram. And then I was able to snag Ronald Jones as my running back 3. And we're already locked in with Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. And I know a lot of people are nervous about Ronald Jones with Keyshawn Vaughn being drafted into the mix. But Tom Brady's running backs have always been productive. They get touchdowns in the red zone. Ronald Jones has, double-digit touchdown upside this year. And he's, to me, in the 7th round, he's worth a best ball pick because you don't know when to start him every week. So he's going to probably get almost up to 200 carries. I would bet this year he's got a chance at 8 to 900 rushing yards, and we'll see how many touchdowns he can get. But I think that's a really good piece to, if Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb have a game where it's like only 7 or 8 points, maybe Ronald Jones can pop in the lineup that week. So that's a really good 3rd running back that I like to get. Darius Geis, John Brown, James White, Brandon Cooks, Matt Ryan, Marvin Jones. And then we're entering the 8th round here with Hayden Hurst, Christian Kirk, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, Hunter Henry, Tom Brady. And I'm up to pick again here. And one of the last running backs that I thought had the best, he's like my favorite best ball running back. It's Tariq Cohen. So We take Tariq Cohen here. He's my 62nd best flex player available, and it looks like we got him at the 91st overall pick, so give or take a couple quarterbacks. But I end up getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I end up getting 8 of my top 8 players on my draft here. They're all in my top 62 of flex ranking. So I'm hitting all my guys that I'm pretty high on. This was one of the first drafts that every pick was just kind of falling my way. So we're pretty much set up at running back for the whole season. We're going to have Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb running the ball. We're going to have Ronald Jones and Tariq Cohen popping in and out, maybe at the RB2 or the flex spot. Those Jones and Cohen could compete with one of our receivers even for the flex spot. So we got really good competition at basically all major positions, the running back and the receiver position. So super happy with that. And then you got Darius Slayton, CeeDee Lamb, Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, Sterling Shepard, turnaround in the 9th to Marlon Mack. Jamison Crowder would have been intriguing if he fell a little bit to me. I did have my eye on Crowder. I guess with my 9th pick, I had my eye on Crowder and probably Rob Gronkowski, Tyler Higbee in between there, Jordan Howard. But at that point, I felt pretty confident that I'm looking at the quarterbacks available, and I see Matt Stafford, Drew Brees. I didn't want to gamble and have both those guys get pulled off the board before I pick next. And Matt Stafford, he's like my quarterback 7 in the rankings right now, so I had to pounce on that. And then I'll add some quarterbacks later. But so all of a sudden, we got our running backs and our receivers set up. We got a starting quarterback. Now we just need some tight ends and some more depth. So you see Sony Michel, Tevin Coleman, Jalen Reagor, Jonnu Smith, who's been growing on me lately, Phillip Lindsay. There's Drew Brees off the board at the end of the 9th. Start of the 10th, we got Latavius Murray, Alexander Madison, Emmanuel Sanders. He's the guy that I like to target at that range. Deshaun Jackson, Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy. And here's my pick, the 10th round. I was able to land Mecole Hardman. He's one of my favorite best ball receivers. He's going to be the third receiver basically on the Chiefs, but maybe the 3rd or 4th guy in the pecking order, because of Kelsey. So we'll see if Hardman can grow. He had a really good rookie year in 2019. I think he ended up with 6 receiving touchdowns. He didn't have a lot of volume, but again, he was a pretty raw receiver coming out. I thought he played cornerback. I can't remember the exact position, but he's still learning the position. He's electric maybe as explosive and fast as Tyreek Hill. So I'm all into getting pieces of the Chiefs offense, and we get Hardman as my wide receiver 5. So even if he's probably not going to score for us every week, but there's a good chance that he's going to get 6 to 7 touchdowns this year again, and possibly start for us, 6 to 8 times. So, and the thing about Hardman is when he hits, he's going to hit, for like a 70-yard touchdown. So his highs are going to be high, so that's why we went with him. Then you got Deebo Samuel. I like Jared Cook there. I wish I could have got him. And then you see Keyshawn Vaughn, Kerryon Johnson, Mike Gesicki. Start of the 11th, you got Matt Breida, Austin Hooper, Golden Tate, Daniel Jones, Henry Ruggs. And I'm sitting here looking around. None of the receivers felt like I needed to own them. None of the running backs really stuck out. Like Tony Pollard is, the handcuff, Duke Johnson maybe, Devonta Freeman if he gets signed somewhere. But I decided to go with my tight end route here. And I get Blake Jarwin here. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I get Blake Jarwin as the 15th tight end off the board, and he's ranked as my tight end 8. So that's almost double X value there. So I love Blake Jarwin. If you've listened to my videos before, I basically got to do my couple minutes of pumping Blake Jarwin up. I think he's got top 10 upside this year. We saw Jason Witten finish as tight end 11 last year in PPR leagues. So there's going to be a lot of volume to the tight ends. And Blake Jarwin, I think the difference between Jarwin and Witten last year was about 3 yards per catch. So Jarwin's going to do a lot more with his opportunities. He's going to terrorize the NFC East. And I'm just super excited about getting Dallas offensive pieces. So Jarwin's going to be, in my committee for tight end, but he'll be the starter. And then you see Sammy Watkins, Anthony Miller, Joe Burrow, Darrell Henderson, Noah Fant, N'Keal Harry. Start of the 12th, you got Ryan Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Jack Doyle, Duke Johnson, Tony Pollard, Cam Newton. And then I'm double dipping at tight end. I go with Dallas Goedert. I think I got him as my tight end 10 or 11. He did finish tight end 10 last year. And the cool part about my favorite thing about Dallas Goedert is even though he's the number 2 tight end in Philly behind Zach Ertz, he still has value of a low-end tight end one every week, even when Ertz is in the lineup. And if anything happens to Ertz, Dallas Goedert is going to be probably ranked as a top 5 tight end that week. And he did show us last year that when Ertz missed the game, Dallas Goedert, I think, had his best game of the season. So I feel pretty confident in the tandem of Blake Jarwin and Dallas Goedert. Someone's going to get it done for us that week. And at worst case, it's 8 points. That's fine. So our starting lineup is all set. We got a couple guys to compete for the flex spot. So at this point now, we're just kind of making sure we get more pieces to add and just trying to find some sleepers. So from basically the 13th round on, we're going to add a couple more quarterbacks and tight end, and then we'll snag some sleepers here. So we'll get into those guys. But after my Goddard pick, there's Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson, Jared Goff, TJ Hawkinson. Boston Scott would have been nice to get. Teddy Bridgewater, one of my favorite later quarterbacks. Big fan of Preston Williams. I think he could actually overtake Devontae Parker this year if he's ready and 100% by camp. Then you see Justin Jefferson, Robbie Anderson, Eric Ebron. And then I'm looking around, and no one was really sticking out besides Ben Roethlisberger. And it kind of goes back to my Juju take, where sometimes in best ball leagues, it's really beneficial to stack one of your best receivers or your best tight ends with the quarterback, because if say Juju goes off for 2 touchdowns and 180 yards or something crazy, right? It's tied to to Ben Roethlisberger, so I'm gonna double dip there. And if Roethlisberger plays a full season this year, he's got some really crazy hidden upside right now. So he could be a top 10 quarterback this year. And then just with Juju, James Conner, the whole offense is kind of a mystery. But if it hits, this is going to be a really good lineup. So I'm excited about the Pittsburgh stack. After my Roethlisberger pick, you got Alshon Jeffrey. I think this guy was on auto pick. He ended up getting Antonio Brown, who just announced his retirement. Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Freeman, Ian Thomas, Chase Edmonds. Start of the 14th round, you get Michael Pittman Jr., Brashad Perriman, Drew Lock, Chris Herndon, Jimmy Garoppolo, Curtis Samuel. And I'm up and looking around here. None of the running backs really piqued my interest. I was thinking maybe Naheem Hines could be nice. Damian Harris maybe is a really deep sleeper. Maybe A.J. Dillon. But I didn't really like the value of the running backs there. And I was looking for Hunter Renfrow. I just kind of tweaked my rankings, and I think he ended up as my wide receiver 38. I think outside of Darren Waller, Renfrow is going to be the next man up in terms of receptions and targets. He had a really nice rapport with Derek Carr at the end of the season last year, and he's a guy that he's not going to do anything amazing. He's just super steady. He's going to be consistent. He's probably going to catch 5 or 6 balls a game, and he'll get us his 60, 70 yards. So it's kind of like a punt getting Renfrow, but in a best ball league. Injuries happen, or if someone, if there's a bye week, maybe Renfrow slots in for 10 to 12 points real quick. But he does have the upside. His last 2 games of 2019, he did put up over 100 yards, and he did score a touchdown in those last 2 games. So he's got, potential to put up some 20-point games. So I'm a big fan of Hunter Renfrow, and I'm interested to see how the Raiders offense in general is going to look. So, but after that, you got Paris Campbell, DeAndre Washington, Jace Sternberger, Kirk Cousins, John Ross. Start of the 15th, you see Will Dissly, my boy Gardner Minshew, who I'd like grabbing as my quarterback 2 or 3. And then we got some running backs, Damian Harris, Jamal Williams, Phillip Rivers. And again, I'm up to pick again, and I'm kind of just looking at my projection sheet, and I'm kind of just seeing, okay, who's filtering to the top here? What is the crowd missing? And I think it's Steven Sims Jr. So the thing about the Washington offense is we're not expecting them to be a great team this year, maybe 5 wins at best, right? It's year 2 of Dwayne Haskins. They got the new head coach, Ron Rivera. They brought in, is it Scott Turner, Norv Turner's son, to call the plays. So I'm kind of thinking shades of Carolina right now of how this offense could look. So you're going to have Terry McLaurin kind of be McLaurin's kind of like a hybrid DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, where I think this Steven Sims, he's going to be the main slot receiver. He's kind of got Curtis Samuel vibes to me, where he could get some carries. They're going to try to get the ball in his hand real quick. And Sims really, look at some of his game logs from last year. Down towards the end of the stretch, it looked like Steven Sims was actually Dwayne Haskins' preferred target. So I know it's not a great offense to invest in, but they're going to be bad. They're going to be throwing the ball. They just lost their number 2 receiver, Kelvin Harmon. They don't have a tight end. The running backs we can't trust. So I might have locked in, McLaurin and Sims, the top 2 receivers on the Redskins team. So it's something that to keep an eye on. But there's been some really good reports about Steven Sims all summer. So if you haven't looked into him, I highly recommend just searching him on Twitter or just hitting the Google search and hitting news. But read up on some Steven Sims. The dude's electric. He's going to be their starting slot receiver. And I don't know. I think he's going to be a nice 1-2 punch with Terry McLaurin. So I guess I would say if McLaurin doesn't get it done that week, maybe Steven Sims pops in our lineup. So I kind of like hedging myself that way. So at the moment, we're sitting 7 deep at receiver. We're sitting in the 15th round. We got Juju, Bob Woods, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Boyd, Mecole Hardman, Hunter Renfrow, and Steven Sims. So I really like that group of receivers. That turned out really nice. The running back room looks like Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Ronald Jones, Tariq Cohen. We could probably add another 1 or 2 guys there, but that should be enough to hold down the fort. I mean, we got 2 stud ball carriers. Henry and Chubb might be, the best pure running backs. If you think about just like old school football running the football down people's throats, Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, that's pretty nasty. And then we're going to have Ronald Jones and Tariq Cohen popping in and out of the flex in the RB2 spot. Matt Stafford locking down the QB1 with Ben Roethlisberger as his wingman, and then Jarwin and Goddard. So I'm feeling really good about this draft. Every pick that I've made so far is one that I've loved. So this might be, of all the drafts I've done, I never had a draft where every pick I was like, yes, we got the guy we wanted. So I guess we'll pick back up here. After I snag Steven Sims, I think it's going this way. So you see Adrian Peterson, Justin Jackson, Denzel Mims, Nyheim Hines, a couple quarterbacks here, Sam Darnold, Derek Carr. I was kind of hoping for Carr to come back my way to pair with Renfrow. Then you get Alan Lazard, Irv Smith. He would have been a nice tight end target. I think he's going to overtake Kyle Rudolph this year. So keep an eye on Irv Smith, especially in training camp buzz. O.J. Howard, T. Higgins, James Washington is an interesting best ball receiver. Larry Fitzgerald still kicking it. And then I'm looking at the board here, and I don't see any – I'm looking at the quarterbacks, and I know I'm feeling good about Stafford and Roethlisberger, but what if something happens to Roethlisberger? Stafford's been injured last year. So I'm looking at the board, and like you got guys like Winston, Fitzpatrick, Foles, Tua. What's interesting is Tyrod Taylor didn't go drafted in this league, which is I don't think I've seen that happen. So I took the one last quarterback that I know is going to, as long as he's healthy, he's starting every game this year. So I just padded the quarterback room with a third guy. Darrington Evans, Jameis Winston, Randall Cobb. I was kind of eyeing him up. A.J. Dillon, Cole Beasley, Kenny Stills. I don't know what's going on with Kenny Stills, but he did get arrested for one of the protesting. I don't remember where it was, but he does have a felony charge on him, so we don't know what's going on with Stills. So be careful about drafting him. Josh Kelly, Laviska Shenault. He's one of my favorite rookie receivers to keep an eye on. Anthony McFarland, Tyrell Williams. And then I'm just looking around, and I decided to pad the tight end room with Greg Olsen. We don't know if Will Dissly's going to be ready to go. He might be on the PUP list. Who knows where he's at in his injury recovery. I'll have to look that up and give you guys a better answer later. But I went with Greg Olsen. Olsen's super old, reliable. Russell Wilson has always been connecting with his tight ends. And I think we could see, some sets with Dissly and Olsen on the field together. But, Greg Olsen's trying to win a championship. So I expect to get the best Greg Olsen that we have left. So he might be a guy that catches, 5 or 6 touchdowns from Russell Wilson. So I'm interested in him, especially at this point in the draft. Any guy that can score 5 or 6 touchdowns is probably a good pick in these upper double-digit rounds. So we see Carlos Hyde, Dawson Knox, Nick Foles, D.D. Westbrook, Corey Davis, Gerald Everett's another one of those interesting tight ends. Kyle Rudolph's another 5 or 6 touchdown guy. Devin Funchess is another touchdown guy. Danny Amendola, David Njoku, Royce Freeman, Vance McDonald, and then I'm up and I'm just, for some reason, I'm looking at like the Jacksonville Jaguar kids sitting here at the end of the draft that nobody wants. I mean, the Jags don't even want Leonard Fournette on their team. So I went with Chris Thompson. Jay Gruden, they got the connection with, from Cincinnati or to Washington, and he's going to be a pass-catching back. He's got Fournette's going to be the primary running back catching the most passes, but Thompson's got, potential to catch 30, 40 balls this year. So maybe he provides 3, 4, 5 useful weeks as an RB2 or flex. It's a bad team. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They're coming from behind. Chris Thompson could be on the field more than people think. Then you got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Lynn Bowden Jr., Jalen Hurd. He's a guy that I'm keeping an eye on because we really got to keep an eye on Deebo Samuel's foot injury and see if he's going to be ready. Russell Gage, Jalen Samuels, Giovanni Bernard, Chris Conley, Albert Wilson. I was looking at Wilson. Wilson actually had some really nice stats toward the end of the last year. He's not a high volume guy. Actually, he's a higher volume guy, but he's still kind of a slot receiver that's going to get you those 10 to 12 point weeks. Joe Reed, Tyler Eifert. I was actually looking at Tyler Eifert to bolster the tight end room, but I went with Raquel Armstead. So I take the two primary Jacksonville Jaguar handcuffs. Up until last year, Leonard Fournette was labeled injury prone. So if anything happens to Fournette, it's going to be a Chris Thompson, Raquel Armstead, timeshare. So it was just an idea. I haven't done that before in one of my drafts, and it was available, so I decided to try it. Mohamed Sanu, Justice Hill, Jerick McKinnon, Andy Isabella. I really wanted to get Rashad Penny with my next pick. I did see, Rashad Penny blew up his knee week 14 or 15 of last year. So that puts him out 9 months from end of November, which is kind of a tough situation. So he's going to be on the PUP list to start, but I've been watching his workout videos and the guy looks like he's totally fine. Like he's back to normal doing, cutting and running ropes and all that stuff. So Rashad Penny, keep an eye on him. He might be a guy that could be super free at the end of the drafts that could, once he gets back from PUP list, they might be ramping his workload up and maybe, week 10, 11, 12, we start to see Rashad Penny dip into more carries. Miles Boykin, Malcolm Brown, KJ Hamler, Josh Reynolds, Benny Snell, Tua Tagovailoa, Deion Lewis. And then for some reason, I'm just looking around and Traquan Smith caught my eye. He was kind of dinged up last year. He didn't get a lot of he missed week 2 through 10 or something like that. He missed a handful of the season. But now he's going to get, you think about the Saints offense, you got Thomas on the outside, kind of big slot. You got Emmanuel Sanders, and they did let, what's his name, go to the Bears. Taylor Gabriel, was it? No, it was the other guy, Teddy Bombay. So Ted Ginn is in Chicago, leaving Traquan Smith with the clear-cut number 3 option. He's one of those guys that, he's got 4 or 5 touchdown, upside. So I went with him. He's a best ball player. All it takes is a 60-yard Drew Brees catch, and you're good to go. So I like Traquan there. It's a pretty solid. He's my worst player on the team, I think. Maybe Armstead is, but Traquan might end up scoring for us a couple times this year. So that's interesting. And then the draft finishes up with Antonio Gandy-Golden, Devin Asiasi, Darren Fells, Adam Humphries, and CJ Uzomah. So I think I did pretty well here. If you guys like any of the players or the picks or the ideas I've been talking about, don't forget to like the video. Leave me a comment. What was my best pick? What was my worst pick? Are you guys vibing on any of the people that I've been talking about and selecting? For me, this has been probably one of my favorite best ball lineups that I've been able to come away with. So I think it's very deep. It's very top heavy as well. And it's got a chance to win the 10K. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, I was super stoked to get this lineup in. So I think that's going to do it, though, for this video. I might try to record a mock draft yet tonight. I'm not sure yet. I got to get some dinner. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for your time. If you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, leave us a rating or review, whatever you can do. And thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you in another one. Peace.